Hi, I'm Mr. Nelson, the student manager here at Almonica, and thank you for joining me on a journey to China through our passport to literacy. Today, I'm going to read to you Ma Jiang and the Orange Ants, written by Barbara Ann Porte and illustrated by Annie Cannon. Let's go. Ma Jiang and the Orange Ants by Barbara Ann Porte, illustrated by Annie Cannon. Ages ago in China, a little girl named Ma Jiang lived with her mother and her father and her three brothers. Two of the brothers were nearly grown, but the third one, Bao, was still a baby. Selling orange ants was how the Ma family earned their living. Though it didn't make them rich, they had everything they needed to get by: food, clothes, shelter, and medicine to put on ant bites. Orange ants are very fierce. They eat almost every crawling thing in sight, and whatever gets in their way, they bite. They especially like to dine on insects that eat oranges, which is how they got their name. Orange growers in China buy orange ants and put them in their orange groves to protect the fruit from harm. Long ago, some of the ants bought by orange growers had been caught by the Ma family. Night after night, Zhang's father and her brothers climbed high into the tall trees and into wild bamboo where orange ants live and cut down their nests while the ants were asleep. Then, wrapping the nests securely in the woven rush mat bags, they carried them back to Zhang's mother. She took the ants, still in their nests, inside the bags to a market to sell. Zhang had her own job to do. She helped look after the baby. "Surely in all of China there has never been a better baby," she sometimes said. The family probably would have gone on this way too, but one terrible day, soldiers descended from the north, rounding up all eligible men to serve in the emperor's army. Among those rounded up were Zhang's father and her older brothers. How dreadful! Where would they be taken? No one knew. What would they be made to do when they got there? No one knew that either. And worst of all, no one knew when, if ever, they would be allowed to return. Tears filled all of Ma's eyes as they said their goodbyes. Who will look after the family now? Zhang worried. So did her mother. Selling orange ants was one thing, catching them was another. Who would climb the trees? Zhang's mother didn't know how. Waste of time, that tree climbing. Attend to your weaving, her parents had told her when she was growing up, so she was very good at making the rush mat bags and also baskets and other woven articles. As for Zhang, she was too small to climb so high and too young to be out alone after dark. Thank goodness, she thought. Though brave in other ways, Zhang did not care to get too near wild nests of orange ants. Killer ants, she told the baby. They think whatever moves is food, including fingers and toes. To-oh, Bao said, as though in agreement, or perhaps hoping to be fed. By now the last of the captured orange ants had been sold, and money was scarce. Meals were further apart than they had been in the past, in portions much smaller. Sometimes Bao was hungry, and so was Zhang. Their mother was too, but what could she do? She was doing her best. Every minute she could spend weaving rush mat bags, and also baskets, trays, sieves, chicken cages, sandals, floor mats, fans, fish traps, and nets, all to sell in the market. But only the very rich or the very lazy bought them. Others wove their own. As the family grew poorer and poorer, Zhang's mother worked harder and longer. More and more of the baby's daily care was left to Zhang. How she longed to be for her father and her brothers to come home. If only I were taller and less afraid of bites, we might have more to eat, Zhang told the hungry baby. Eek! Bao said sadly and sucked his thumb. Then, one day, their mother had a bit of good luck. As she sat at the market tending her wares, an old man approached her. He trapped bees and sold their honey for a living. Why, this is just what I need for staving off stings, he told her, draping himself in rush mat nets, plopping a Why, this is just what I need for staving off stings, he told her, draping himself in the rush mat nets, plopping a chicken cage over his head and trying on the sandals. Short of money, he offered to pay in honey. Why not? Zhang's mother said. Honey makes everything taste better. Carrying the honey home in a gourd, she hung it from the ceiling hook for safekeeping. That night, after a meager dinner of bean and rice gruel, she took down the honey, dipped a pair of chopsticks into it, and gave Zhang and the baby each a lick. You can have more tomorrow if you're good, she promised, hanging the honey back up. Good, said Bo, and licked his lips. The following day, while their mother was away gathering rushes to weave, Zhang took her brother outside. She sat him on the ground beside a pile of rocks. Blocks, she told him. He played for a while, but then got bored and began to fuss. Are you hungry? Do you want something to eat? Zhang asked. Eat, Bao said, and stuck out his tongue. Surprised to hear him speak so clearly, Zhang went inside, climbed onto a stool, and got the honey. She carried it back along with the pair of chopsticks. Have some, she said, dipping a stick into the honey, then holding it out. Bao licked the stick and then smacked his lips. More? Asked Zhang. More, said Bao. More, more, more. So for the next little while, Zhang was kept busy dipping chopsticks into honey, taking turns with her brother licking it off. The honey was sweet and very good. It was also rather messy and hard to keep from dripping. Enough? Zhang finally asked. Too sticky to speak, Bo burped and bobbed his head. Well, same to you, said Zhang. Then she carried the honey and the chopsticks back inside, ring-hung the gourd from the ceiling hook, and put back the stool. When she returned, she saw that her brother was staring at something moving on the ground. Looking down, Zhang saw it was a small puddle of honey, crawling with ants. Hundreds of ants, and hundreds more on the way. Aye! She screeched and snatched at Bao. Bao! Bao! The startled baby complained. Hush! Zhang soothed. Black ants won't bite. Bite? Bao said, and struggled to get down. Nap time, Zhang told him. Carrying him indoors, she laid him in bed. No nap, said Bao. But in almost no time, he was snoring. While he slept, Zhang had time to think. Of course, a honey trap. What could be simpler, she asked herself, or safer? Was there ever an ant, whatever its color, that didn't like honey? Why hadn't she thought of it before? Zhang looked around the room for something to use. Seeing one of her mother's tightly woven rush mat bags, she picked it up, unfastened it at the top, and smeared the inside with honey. Retying the bag carefully, she left a small opening. Finally, making sure that Bao was sound asleep, she slipped outside to hang her homemade trap on a low bamboo branch. The next day, when she went to check, the rush bag was filled with orange ants. Cautiously, Zhang closed up the bag, took it down, and carried it home to show her mother. Ew! Her mother said happily. It looks as if we're back in the orange ant business. To show how pleased she was with Zhang, she gave her a double helping of rice for dinner with honey on the side. Thank you, said Zhang. But if not for Bao wanting an extra snack, I would have never thought of it. and she shared her extra portion with him. "Thank you," said Bao. Imagine how surprised his mother was to hear him speak. Later that same night, Zhang and her mother smeared honey inside a dozen rush mat bags. In the morning, Zhang hung them up in trees where the orange ants nested. Every day she checked on them, and, as they filled with orange ants, collected the bags and carried them home to her mother, who took them to the market and sold them. With the money she earned, she bought more honey to bait more traps. She also bought rice, sesame oil, bean paste, soy sauce, chicken, fish, pork. Now they weren't poor anymore, or hungry. This made them happier than they'd been for some time, but not completely. How could they be a family of 6 after all, but only 3 of them at home? Time came, time went. Spring turned to summer and summer to fall, and winter set in. The new year was coming. Throughout the village, everyone was getting ready for the celebration, grinding wheat, cooking, cleaning, covering walls, windows, doors with decorations. Zhang and her mother were getting ready too. "At least we'll have plenty to eat," Zhang's mother said to herself as she sliced meat and vegetables, stuffed dumplings, rolled noodles, steamed cakes, and did 101 other things to prepare for the festival. As she worked, a tear rolled down her cheek. If only her husband and her sons could be with them to share in the feast, she thought. "At least we have lots of fine pictures," Zhang told herself as she pasted one of the fierce-looking tigers into the door. Then, stepping back to see it better, she frowned. If only her father and brother could have been with them to welcome in the new year. At that moment, Bao toddled by. Seeing the tiger, he stopped in his tracks. "Grr, grr!" he roared at it. He showed play claws and giggled. Probably he's too young to remember our father or our brothers, Zhang thought. How sad. Then, just 3 days before the end of the old year, when snow was on the ground, there came a trampling sound. "Soldiers!" said the villagers, and rushed off to hide in their houses. Zhang and her mother were already in their house, salting fish in the kitchen. Bao was banging on a pot. They paused to peek out. What a frightening sight! A grisly-looking group of weirdly dressed men were climbing the hill, packs on their backs, their bodies bundled against the cold. "Bandits," decided Zhang's mother, and shivered. As she backed away from the window, several of the bandits broke free of the rest and ran straight for the Ma's family's front door. They banged with no sign of stopping when they got there. Afraid they'd break down the door, Zhang's mother pushed Zhang and the baby behind her and opened it a crack. Fearful, she watched as the bandits pulled back their hats and their face wraps. That's when Zhang's mother could see it. It was her husband and her 2 sons, standing there in their doorway, released at last from service to the emperor. Imagine that family's rejoicing. Zhang and her mother and her father and her brothers could hardly stop bowing. Only Bao sat by himself on the floor, looking around at so much commotion. How he hated being left out. Suddenly he pulled himself to his feet. "Dad, Dad, Dad, Dad!" he shrieked and flung himself at his father. His father stepped back in surprise, and then having regained his composure, he reached down and picked up Bao. "I see while I've been gone our baby learned how to speak," he said. While Zhang's father and her older brothers washed up and changed clothes, Zhang and her mother set out a feast. When everyone had eaten, they exchanged news of all that had happened during their long separation. "Walls. Day after day we spent building walls," Zhang's father said. "To keep back the northern enemy," explained Zhang's eldest brother. "The worst part was always being cold," the younger one told them. Finally it was Zhang's mother's turn. "At first we had problems too," she said. "If not for Zhang, I don't know how we would have managed." Then, holding up an orange ant trap for their inspection, she brought her husband and her sons up to date on the family business. Zhang's father and her brothers looked at Zhang approvingly. "Don't forget the baby," says Zhang. "If he had been a neater-eater, I never would have thought of it." "Neater-eater," said Bao, and stuck a fistful of sticky rice in his hair. So it was that when the new year arrived, Zhang and her family had everything to be grateful for: good health, a prosperous business, plenty to eat, and everything together to share it besides. They lived happily for a long time to come. As for the orange ants, word spread and soon others began using traps. Eventually hog and sheep bladders replaced the rush mat bags. Lard was used for bait instead of honey, but the principle remained, and to this day orange ants still guard the orange groves in parts of China. It has been that way for almost 2,000 years. The end.